Hello and welcome back to Evil Genius Props. It's spooky season, which means it's time for some spooky builds. Sorry, I had a little something in my throat there. It is spooky season, so we're going to do some builds for a friend's home haunt. In this case, he's actually a director I've worked with before on a couple of things, and we're just going to do a couple smallish builds that you could do easily at home, but then you get a much better effect than if you were to buy something similar at a store. Now, what we're going to do is a couple of different builds. The first one we're going to start with is actually just a sign for the haunt to help set the mood as they're going through. He lives in an area known as Beachview, so they are doing sort of a voodoo swamp, spooky, creepy vibe haunt this year. So our first build is actually just going to be a sign for the haunt announcing the name. And we'll have that one up and then move on to a couple other things. In this case, probably some gravestones or something like that. Everything's taped down. Let's go ahead and get started cutting it out. As you can see there, nice little lines to follow back over with the Dremel. Letters are all done. Next step is to carve it out. In this case, I'm using my Dremel. I like to use these high-speed cutting bits they sell. This one's pointed. There's a couple other ones. One's just sort of round, one's sort of vaguely egg-shaped, and the other one's sort of teardrop-ish. They produce different effects. In this case, because I got some sharp edges on the letters, I'm going to go with the more pointed cone-shaped one here. And then probably switch to one of the other ones later on for removing other parts. Now, this is nasty stuff. You don't want to be breathing. You're going to be kicking it up everywhere. Put on a mask. All right, letters are cut out. Depending on the look you want, you could stop here. I'm gonna use this as like and cut out around it, so these are raised up, which means it's time to change bits. All right, the delicate areas are sort of taken care of now. Did the edges, did around the letters, missed a spot here apparently. But after this, it's just taking out the middle bits here, clearing that out, and that'll be a lot quicker than the more delicate work. All right, so it looks better, but there are still little fuzzy bits, and best way to clear those are with heat. You can use a blowtorch, a kitchen torch. I'm gonna use a heat gun. Let's see where we are. So you can see these little lines here. Those are just in the board. They're designed to be sort of a cutting point or something. But we're going to leave it because it kind of looks like it's the wood splitting for the sign. So we're going to leave that as is. However, because of those, I think got cut a piece of wood or something to put on the back, but we'll come back to that part later. Next part is just to coat all this. I'm happy with the look here. So we're going to just paint this with some regular household paint. Something like you would use to paint your walls. Just sealing it, doesn't really matter what color, we're going to paint over it. So what I'm going to do is cut off a chunk of this spare OSB board plywood that I had sitting around. Use that to put on the back of our Beachview Bayou sign. I already went and measured it. That and just put that as a backing, help keep it sort of rigid and safe there, especially with these lines. And then we're going to glue that together and then do a top coat over this. You can see it's got an initial coat. I was running out of paint, and this is very porous material, so it sort of sucks up the paint. What we're going to do is do a coat over that with Drylok, same stuff as you use in your garage or your basement if it was leaking, and that'll help weather seal it as well as cover it. Brush this off. And to attach the foam board to the plywood here, I've got Loctite PL300. Whoop. Not sponsored, but best adhesive I found, as it's specifically designed for foam board. And that's all I got. Should be enough. All right. Let that dry and we'll be good to go. So what we're going to do is go ahead and do a coat of this with a gray Drylok paint. And the advantage here is that because it's designed to keep water out of places, it'll automatically sort of work as waterproofing for this to help keep it nice and safe while it's outside. And if you've never used this stuff, it is thick. It's kind of like painting with a milkshake. You can get this in gray or white. I was already planning on painting this gray to look like aged wood. So by getting the gray color, I could save myself a coat. dry up and move on. This is dried up and we want it to look like wood now. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to use wood stain. In this case we're using a dark walnut. But we want to leave it over this, and we actually want to go on kind of streaky. So maybe the better way to do this rather than the paper towel would be an old paintbrush or something, but I kind of want this to be a little bit more filled in. Actually, the better reason to use a paintbrush might just be that this is going to eat up the paper towel. But you can see there how it's sort of filling in. Yep, we're going to get a brush. I actually keep a chip brush specifically for this that is old and crusty and dry and just is not very good as a paintbrush, but perfect for this because it specifically leaves lots of lines and streaks. And just looks all very much like wood grain. I think I actually have enough texture already on it. I don't need to add more with the brush, so I'm actually going to go grab a rag and apply it that way. That'll go a little quicker, I think. Now, you're starting to lose some of the lettering in this, but that's okay. We're going to call that back out with paint once this is dried. Because the carving on this is very, shall we say, 3D, it's important to get at this from different angles to make sure that everything's covered. But I really like the inconsistencies and like the spots that we're getting up there. Just things that are too even and consistent don't look natural or worn. All right, we'll let that dry. Sign's all nice and dry. Just need to call out these letters as they've kind of gotten lost now. In this case, you want to do just sort of a nice primary color, either dark or white. So I'm just going to do straight black. In this case, I feel like that would stick out better than the white, but I'll try it and see. If I don't like it, I might go to a lighter, like off-white. Since I want this to look aged, I'm not going to be too worried about the edges. All right, there's the black, and as you can see, the letters really stand out a whole lot better with that on there. Next, I want to do this trim. Probably going to do that in a dark brick red kind of color. We'll let that dry. It's looking a little orangey than I would have liked, but I'm not worried about it because we're going to do some aging over top of it. But it actually looks pretty reasonable for a sign that was like maybe one time red and has since faded into like an orange. And then, like I said, we'll put some aging paints over it and it'll look even better. So let all this dry and get a better idea of this. Still looking pretty orange on this, but we're going to go ahead and dull it down with some burnt umber on this one. I don't want to just use black. I'm really happy with the lettering and the field here, so I'm not going to worry about aging that at all. These little spots sort of looks realistic with it. It's not even. I'm going to age this up. Like I said, just do this. The other option would be to sort of make it a little bit darker and make it look more like rust, and like it had a metal band around it, but I don't know that that's going to place too well. So we're going to go ahead and just do this, and what we're going to do is just glob some on and then wipe it off with a paper towel. And because of the texture, that's probably not going to come off very well, which actually makes it a little more realistic than that it's sort of got some spots. So I really like the way that worked out. It's not so orange. It's definitely toned it down. We're probably going to add a little bit more color to that, though. We're not going to just do the brown over the orange. I think we're going to do some gray. And as you can tell there, Bayou, it's supposed to be swampy, so I think we're going to put some green on there to look like moss and mold and mildew. Just all sorts of good stuff like that. Specifically not cleaning the brush off. Just sort of grabbing some of the green. And what we're going to do is, instead of brushing over the entire areas, we're going to sort of plop it in. And same sort of deal. We're going to brush that off. But the thing to notice there is where you do it as much as what you do. So something like this, where it's going to sit. So you're not going to have mold up here, but you might down here. And same sort of thing, we're just going to dab it, and your eye's not going to pick up, oh, hey, it's green there, but it's going to look older. We're going to do some more dressing on this when we actually get it on site, but this is going to be it for the paint. We're going to go ahead and hit this with some sealant. And just seal this to help weather protect everything, because this is all acrylic paint on top here, so we don't want that to wash off. So we'll hit it with something to seal it in. Aging is all done on that, so we're going to go ahead and seal it up. I'm just using some spar varnish. This will eventually turn yellowish outside, but for right now, for all the longer this will be out, this will be fine. And there we have it, our finalized sign, ready to go outside. It's not going to be mounted. This is going to be one of 3 videos for this same haunt, so we'll do all the pictures at the same time. We'll do one probably short video just to show all of them in place. But in the meantime, this is the sign. It's a technique I've used many times, so in terms of like lessons learned, there aren't too many. Not to say that there aren't any. Usually I'm able to just buy like the smaller pieces in the 2x2 foot squares, but I bought the larger piece and cut it down, and now it's got these lines. Not so much of a problem. It actually worked out okay in this sign, but then I had to apply some plywood to the back and made the sign a lot heavier than it would be normally. Normally these are pretty light signs. I like to make these a lot for shows, and they're able to fit easily onto set pieces without adding a whole lot of weight. That being said, besides that, there is also first time actually having to sort of prime it for outside and prepare it for that. So using the dry lock and then finalizing it with the urethane to cover the outside. But I am very happy with how it turned out, and hopefully our haunt owners will be as well. Like I said, look for that other video showing all the pieces completed and together in the site. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe.